As I promised a couple weeks back, along with Inktober, I'm doing a Not Inktober thing that I'm comparing to improv. Why? Well, there's no pre-published list, so you gotta just do whatever shows up, and I'm leaving myself the freedom to pursue any style I wish, because this is supposed to train myself to be more creative. And some prompts may be obvious, but others, maybe not so much. But you gotta figure it out, and by the end of the day, because, well, that's how I'm keeping myself accountable. So I'll do one a day, every day in October, and I'll talk a little bit about this chart here, which is a great thinking tool when it comes to deepening our creativity and our happiness in doing so. Hello and welcome. If we haven't met before, my name is Brian, also known here as Baru. And what do I do here? Well, I create and share art, creativity, silly pieces of trivia, and, the occasional wacky thing that I've got no explanation for. But I do have a bit of an explanation for this daily drawing challenge. So, imagine being on stage at an improv club, and you call out to the audience, "Hey, give me a theme." And of course, you're kinda hoping that they'll yell out something that you're really, really familiar with. Like for me, maybe someone shouted out, 80s new wave and post-punk record shop. And I'd be like, yeah, okay, this show will basically write itself. But suppose an audience member shouts, "Modem!" What now? Well, it's improv, and you follow the golden rule of improv. And that is to say, yes and. In other words, you work positively with every suggestion. Do I know anything about modems? Well, maybe a little bit, I guess. If I were on stage, I would have to completely wing it. But with a drawing, I've got a little bit of time. I can look up the definition. I could read something on Wikipedia. I can toss it around my head for a bit, but not for too long because I want to finish by the end of the day. And if you haven't guessed it by now, the audience member shouting the theme is Wordle, which is a free online word game hosted by the New York Times. It might take a few minutes to solve the puzzle, and you are left with your art prompt for the day. And it's a new word every day, and that's kind of the fun part. You just don't know what you're gonna get. So, modem. That was the word for October 1st. It didn't seem to me to be the kind of thing that would make an interesting drawing, but I thought, well, maybe I could draw a modem from an unusual angle. And as I was sketching it, I saw it kind of look like a wall, and maybe Humpty Dumpty could be up there. So that isn't necessarily a boring idea, but it just really doesn't make a lot of sense. So I gave it some more thought and considered what a modem is. It's basically a translator of information from analog to digital and digital to analog. So then I had this idea of a robot translator as like a go-between for two very different creatures. This wasn't exactly the kind of word I wanted to start October with. But, in a way, if I knew exactly what to do with it, that wouldn't have been doing much to train me to be a little bit more creative. Here's the modem robot, translating meows to squeaks, and perhaps we have two creatures that can have better communication with one another. And I say, that's a good thing. As we watch the next drawing come alive, let's talk a little bit about finding the right environment to cultivating creativity. The first really big factor is having psychological safety, which is really just being in an environment where we feel comfortable sharing ideas and taking risks and even exposing our vulnerabilities without fearing judgment and failure. One way, of course, is to keep our new ideas and visions to ourselves, and that is pretty safe. And a lot of artists do keep to themselves for that reason. Now, it's not always the best way to explore, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But we could also find friends or groups or other outlets that actually encourage us to take risks and that will understand that failure is a normal part of being creative and that there is respect and value given to your efforts regardless of what happens. Now, on the other end of that spectrum, if we're being berated and scolded and we feel like we're disappointing those around us, well, that's when we feel really unsafe to reveal anything new, and that's really going to limit our creativity. I do love this one. The little snail looking for an upgrade. Aw, kind of cute. So we talked a little bit about psychological safety, how that is essential to creativity. The other major factor in a good creative environment is performance pressure, or really it's the accountability that we feel for having results or making something. Studies have shown that we tend to learn more and create more if we feel some pressure to do so. So to a degree, we can induce that in ourselves internally, but the right teams or groups tend to give us even more reason to produce something. In this case, pressure is a good thing if we are in a safe space. If done well, we want to do more. Now, to do our most, in this case, to train our creativity, we want to have a bit of pressure to create something, but also feel safe that our efforts will be valued. And that's what we see in this blue quadrant right here. High pressure, but high safety. That is going to give us the best opportunity to learn things and to become more creative. I'll expound on this chart and how we can set ourselves up for success and creativity in future videos, probably in the upcoming weeks. But for now, your homework is to reflect on where you are and where you want to be on that chart. And I will expect a 12-page report on my desk next week. Actually, I'm just joking about that. But hey, let's talk about the art for a minute. As long as we're here watching the art. If you have watched some of my older videos, in fact, the oldest videos, you will recognize this frog. He was created for the word noble, which I took as nobility, and maybe here's a frog king. But also nobles were a type of gold coin, also featured here. When I saw that my word today was wagon, I immediately thought of this and decided to add a page to this story. In my mind, this noble frog decided to part ways with the noble coins in order to have someone cart him around. Maybe more interested in leisure than wealth, but maybe this frog has plenty of nobles back at the castle, so maybe he's just stimulating the local economy. I don't know. I do like the feel of the original drawing better, but I also spent many hours on it, and I didn't have that kind of time this week. But I do think it gets the idea across. Have you ever found yourself in the position of having gold coins and not knowing what to do with them? Well, consider supporting our sponsor.
Today's episode is brought to you by pumpkin. You can cut holes into it. You can eat it too. You can give it to a suitor to reject their marriage proposal. Hey, don't look sad, little guy. Now you can make a pumpkin pie. America's #1 orange-colored squash. Pick up a pumpkin today, wherever orange-colored squashes are sold.
Did you know that in Ukraine, an old tradition held that a would-be suitor would visit a woman's house to propose. If the answer was yes, the family was there toasting in celebration. If no, the poor guy was silently handed a pumpkin. Trivia! I said I would give you useless trivia, and here it is. I am nothing if not a man of my word. I'm going to move a little bit more quickly through the last few Wordle drawings for the week, because most of these are pretty straightforward. This first one was for the word title, and I took the opportunity to create a Peru art title. And that's kind of based on a throwy that I made a while back. Maybe I'll make this into a sticker sometime. Maybe holographic or something. I think that might be kind of cool. I do like the little snail guy in there. He seems to feel relaxed, as we all do, between the B and the R. This drawing I did in a place where I didn't have a camera set up. And I love this idea, not so much the execution. What we have here is a juvenile Australian loud miner bird. And he is playing Minecraft. So he's a miner mining in Minecraft. For what it's worth. Probably my favorite from this bunch, a drawing for logger. I did one last year for the words, no, it wasn't last year, it was the year before. I think it was 2022. The word was Stein, and I had thoughts of reprising that somehow. I thought, well, the guy in the Stein could be drinking a lager, which would have been interesting. But I decided to celebrate Oktoberfest, which I live in a town with very deep German roots. And our Oktoberfest is the third week in October. So German bears, German beers, lederhosen, and for some inexplicable reason, a snail for decoration. I do think this guy is adorable, though. So I give this one a thumbs up. This is another one I think that I could make a sticker of, or maybe some sort of screen print or something. It's part of the reason I didn't color it in. I could do a little more with it in the future. I work full-time, and I'm also putting these videos together, so some nights I don't have a lot of time to spend on a new drawing. But I'm also trying to keep up with this creative practice. The word here was flour. And I had this image of a cat making biscuits, as they say, but only actually making real biscuits. I had imagined the Felid's face being covered in flour dust, and I didn't have the time to fully realize what was in my head. But here's a cat making biscuits. Imagine the poofs of flour everywhere. This is interactive art. Use your imagination. Come on now, collaborate with me, because you are awesome. I thank you for hanging out for a while, and if you feel like doing something like this, some creative work, and you want to do a Wordle drawing or 5 or 6, send them my way, and I will include them in my video if you'd like that. It's all for fun, and honestly, I've got nothing but support for you, and I mean that 100%. The world is a much better place with imaginative and creative people in it. So, do join me, click like and subscribe, and don't forget to buy yourself a pumpkin. Do it, you know you wanna. Till next time, auf Wiedersehen.
Hey, pumpkin, cuttable and edible pumpkin. You know it's something to give to your suitor when you've gotta get him to leave you alone.